So I just watched a Kyle Kalinske video, a secular talk video, obviously, because that's the name of his channel. If you haven't watched my video that I did on Kyle Kalinske, check it out, because I think it's pretty funny. I mean, I made a few funny jokes there. I hope he watches it someday, hopefully. Anyway, the point is, oh, and by the way, I'm still getting no views, so you better watch my videos and share and subscribe and do all that. I'm pathetically begging again for the first 30 seconds of this video. But moving on. Nancy Pelosi is running for Congress again, which is not good because of her policies, very corporatist, very corrupt policies, exact same as Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and the rest of them. And so that's a problem in and of itself. Now, is Nancy Pelosi the worst Speaker of the House? No. Is she the best Speaker of that? Is she the best Speaker of the House? Certainly not. Of course not. Now, let's go through some of the speakers. Obviously, we don't need to go through Paul Ryan or crybaby John Boehner or Dennis Hastert, who was a pedophile, or Newt Gingrich, who was a psycho. But before Newt Gingrich, there was a Democrat who was the Speaker of the House. Newt Gingrich was a Republican, obviously, but there was a Democrat who was Speaker of the House who lost his seat in the 1994 midterm election. Don't know much about him, but way before that, there was a Democrat by the name of Tip O'Neill who essentially cucked himself to Ronald Reagan, and Tip O'Neill just gave Ronald Reagan everything he wanted. And so basically, Democrat, light Republican, completely useless, and rolling over for Republicans. And before that, there was a Speaker of the House, Carl Albert, who was around during the Richard Nixon, Spiro Agnew era. And of course, Carl Albert is famous for saying, this was after Spiro Agnew resigned, and then it seemed like Richard Nixon wasn't going to be around much longer either because of his own issues. So Carl Albert said that if he ended up becoming president because Richard Nixon also resigned, then he would appoint a Republican and just step away. So Carl Albert, another weak, feckless Democrat who was just ready to roll over for Republicans at any moment. Obviously, that didn't end up happening because Richard Nixon appointed Gerald Ford as vice president, and then Richard Nixon later resigned, and then Gerald Ford just became president. But point is, we have a bunch of weak, feckless, horrible Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, Tip O'Neill, Carl Albert, and so on and so forth. And then we go further down the road, and there was a Speaker of the House who was... Now, I can't remember who the Speaker of the House was when Lyndon Johnson was president, but it was pretty good. Helped Lyndon Johnson with a lot of his policies, and of course, listened to Lyndon Johnson and did as he said. And of course, you have to listen to Lyndon Johnson because he's Lyndon Johnson. The point is, before that, there was a Speaker of the House named Samuel Rayburn, who was Speaker of the House for a really long time. Great ally of Lyndon Johnson, great ally of Franklin Roosevelt. So great ally of LBJ and FDR, and very progressive, very awesome, on point, solid speaker, very progressive, who ushered in a lot of the New Deal policies. And so he was a very important figure, and he even tried to take responsibility at times, even when he didn't need to take responsibility, like Democrats lost the majority, and he was ready to just step aside as leader. Like, imagine if the actual corporatist losers who were actually terrible admitted responsibility and stepped aside, but, you know, only the good people actually step aside and take responsibility, so there's that stuff. And then way before that, I'm not going through every speaker here because I don't know every speaker. There was a Speaker of the House named John Nance Garner who was FDR's vice president for FDR's first term and second term. Remember, FDR had 4 terms. And John Nance Garner was the Speaker of the House during President Herbert Hoover and Vice President Charles Curtis, and basically, I'm logging into YouTube right now, by the way, so I can upload this quickly because my computer is running low on battery. But the point is, John Nance Garner was the Speaker of the House who was also a horrible blue dog Democrat, if you will. I don't know if people still use the term blue dog, but I use it. So yeah, John Nance Garner was an incredibly conservative Democrat, absolutely hated workers' rights, and loved oppressing the working class and really screwing them over. And of course, when he became vice president, he gave FDR a very hard time, and even defeated FDR's attempt to reform the Supreme Court. By the way, Justice Stephen Breyer probably resigning this year, or maybe it's been confirmed, I don't really know. I read a headline, but point is, and we go back further, even further in time. I don't know many of the speakers' names, but there was the Speaker of the House named Skyler Colfax, who also was vice president during President Ulysses Grant's first term, and Skyler Colfax was part of a group called the Radical Republicans, and remember the Radical Republicans that's what they call themselves, and they supported civil rights, and they were very good on civil rights issues. They were the early Republicans, should I say the last good Republicans, because after 1881, the Republican Party just died and went to you-know-where, and they've been horrible ever since. And you can watch my video on that too, but point is, Skyler Colfax was a pretty good Speaker of the House. He even impeached Andrew Johnson, and Skyler Colfax would have been excellent, except for the fact that he took bribes, and that wasn't good. Bribes for a railroad contract, and yeah, good policy, supported civil rights, but took bribes, so corrupt person with good policies, which is kind of rare, but going forward, early on there was a Speaker of the House named James Polk, who was allies with President Andrew Jackson and Vice President Martin Van Buren. Jackson and Van Buren, absolutely horrible, by the way. Genocide, Insurrection Act, economically regressive policies. Point is, James Polk, of course, later was governor of Tennessee. He lost re-election, but then ran for president and won. James Polk was a warmonger, annexed land after the war with Mexico, massive imperialist. So, I mean, those are the Speakers of the House. Like, so is Nancy Pelosi the worst? Of course not. Is she the best? Certainly not. That's the point. And hopefully Nancy Pelosi is defeated in the primary with Shahid Buttar, because I believe Shahid Buttar is running again. So hopefully that works. So just defeat her in the primary, or the way the California system works, I don't really understand it, but it works very differently. So however that works, just defeat her and make sure to get better leadership. Primary every single blue dog Democrat.